Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson is actually not what I expected it to be, but in a good way, and this book is way funnier than I expected. You're about to watch me read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I'm really excited to read this book, and because it's Brandon Sanderson, of course I have incredibly high expectations. And I think I also have high expectations because he wrote this without thinking about like a bunch of people reading it. He wrote with one person in mind, his wife, which is so adorable. And so he wrote this for her, and then she liked it so much she ended up convincing him, I think, to publish it. So I think that we're gonna see a really interesting kind of style in his writing, because he knows that at that time, at least, he was only writing for one person. So I'm interested to kind of see the difference in the writing. Maybe it's going to be like really romantic or something too. That'd be really cute. I expect it also to be really kind of like magical and even a little bit cozy, to be honest. Magical, cozy, fantasy vibes. It's going to be pretty cool. So from my understanding, Tress of the Emerald Sea follows our main character Tress, and she's lived on this island that's surrounded by like acidic water, I think. Like if you touch it, it like burns and eats away at your skin, which is really gross. And teacups kind of wash up on the island. I guess they don't melt, I don't know. Maybe they're magic teacups. And she collects them and they make her happy. And she has a best friend on the island. But then her best friend on the island is getting married. And for whatever reason, she ends up following along, I think, going on the ship or being a stowaway to either stop it or maybe to just kind of explore. I'm not entirely sure like why she goes out there, and then it's kind of following her adventures as she's now leaving this small little like island that she knows and exploring more of the world. There's like a sorceress involved as well, and yeah, it just sounds like a really good time, to be honest. And that makes the cover really cool, right? Because you can see like she has the little teacup, she's on like a little island, there's like all the stuff behind it, it's very green, it's very beautiful. I'm really excited, so let's crack this book right open. Oh, but wait! We know the drill! This is the dust cover. It's gotta come off. And I'm really hoping, Brandon Sanderson, that you have a beautiful design under here. Let's find out. Do-do-do. Mm-hmm. No! There's no design! Well, at least it's green. Alright, let's crack this book open for real now. I'm a little bit more than 100 pages into Tress of the Emerald Sea, and here are my thoughts so far. I did not expect this book to be as funny as it is. Now, I think what's really good about this is that Wit is our narrator. You heard that right. This is narrated by Wit. And now, people who haven't read Stormlight Archive, or I don't know if Wit, I imagine Wit is probably in the rest of the Cosmere as well. But for people who haven't read that and don't know him, there's probably a lot of confusion reading this book because it's like, what? Who is this guy? Why is he telling the story like this? But as somebody who knows Wit and loves Wit, this is so good because I feel like Wit never gets enough time to tell his stories, but now we get an entire book of Wit telling a story, and it honestly just makes me so happy. The humor in this book is incredible. I have laughed out loud so many times. It's just ridiculous. I love it. The world that Tress lives in is really, really interesting. So Tress is our main character, and she has grown up in this small kind of like mining village. And what's unique about this world are the spores. So there's like these moons, and the moons drop different types of spores. And if any type of water, liquid, could even be spit and stuff, touches the spore instantly, boom, becomes this like big tree. So obviously you don't want to inhale one because then a big tree will grow inside of you and you'll not survive that, obviously. And so the whole world is like super dangerous because there's all these spores everywhere. And the only way for the spores not to do bad things is if you have like aluminum, like that kind of metally stuff. And for whatever reason, that kind of like keeps you safe from there. So it's a pretty dangerous world. And everything is spores. Like the water is spores. There's spores coming out of the sky. There's spores everywhere you look. And so this story's fun because Tress ends up stowing away on a boat, and the boat gets attacked. And so she ends up going on a different boat where there are a bunch of pirates. And there's a lot of mystery about the pirates, especially about the captain. All of the crew are really, really interested as she's getting to know them and their stories, and kind of integrating there with her ultimate mission, of course, to find the sorceress, because it involves that sorceress had basically attacked a ship where the guy that she likes, also her best friend, was on, and basically like stole him away and is like, ransom. And so she's the only one who wants to do anything about it because she loves him. And so I don't think I've really read a book that takes place really with pirates. The whole setting is like her on this pirate ship and they're attacking people. There's all these issues, obviously, because it's a pirate ship on water, but the water is like spores and the spores are deadly. So there's a lot of really interesting things happening there. And one of my favorite parts about this is because Whit's narrating. At one point, there's like a bunch of people on the ship, and he's like, there's too many names for you to remember. I'm just gonna let you know about the ones that matter. All the ones that don't, they're called Dougs. And so there's just a bunch of Dougs. It's like, oh, the Dougs did this, the Dougs did that. And they're just like, whatever. They're not important to the story. They're just random crew members. And it makes me laugh every single time without fail. It's so good. It's so funny. I'm having such a good time. I really didn't expect it to be as funny as it is, and I'm just so happy about it. Oh, there's also a talking rat. Don't want to forget that. There's a talking rat named Huck, and he comes from like a species of talking rats. And he and Tress are like companions. She cares about him. He cares about her because she doesn't really treat him like a rat. She doesn't get scared of him. She's just nice. Tress is a really nice character. So yeah, those are my thoughts so far. I'm going to continue to read Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I will update you around the halfway mark. So I will see you then. I'm now more than halfway through Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I am still adoring this book so much. Not only is this book hilarious, but it's also really like exciting and action-packed, and the world is so interesting because there's different types of spores and they do different things. There's like the tree ones that I talked about, but we discovered there's some more. There's some that kind of turn like crystal-like when they get wet. There's some that can basically be squished like when it's turned into this like harder substance, and it was used as like a patch on like a broken part of the ship, which was really cool. There was, the really cool one is like the midnight essence, where you put some of the spores together and you kind of tell it what you want it to be, and then you become that spore. So it's really good for like spying on people. And so Tress had kind of made it as like a rat and was the rat until like she was like pulled out of that and like the spores kind of like dissipated. And that was super, super cool. I am 100% always so impressed with Brandon Sanderson's imagination, or my headcanon now, that he is Wit or HOID or whatever you want to call him. Brandon Sanderson is telling us something. I'm convinced at this point. I think what's really cool about this is following along Tress's journey from a minor girl who's just kind of like enjoying her life on her small town, in her small little island. She loves to collect cups and wash windows and stuff. Like that was her life. But now she's in this new kind of like world experience, and she's finding stuff that she's really passionate about, and she's also growing as a character. Before, she used to be scared to ask for things, but now she's gaining more confidence, feels more sure of herself and what she wants and what she needs to do to achieve those goals. And it's really fun to watch. I love the slow progression of a character as they're just evolving and growing and adapting. It's so much fun. I really love that. Brandon Sanderson, he's such a good writer. It's honestly like so impressive. So the part that I'm at right now involves the Crimson Sea and a dragon. And I am wondering like how the rest of the story is gonna progress, because some really, really action-packed stuff just happened and then now we're going into another kind of part of the story, like one of the main parts of the story, like one of the goals of one of the characters, and I'm interested to see like how that's going to happen and how that's going to push Tress along, because she still has her ultimate goal of saving Charlie, like finding him, bringing him home. So I'm wondering, I feel like she's going to somehow befriend the dragon. It just seems like that's the kind of thing that she can do, and then maybe they'll like fly together and they'll save Charlie or something. That would be cute. But yeah, who knows? Like, I guess I'll find out pretty soon. But yeah, that's just kind of me like excited, and you know. So I'll continue to read Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I will update you probably when I finish the book. So I will see you then. I just finished Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, and I gotta say, it really is like a fairy tale, but written for adults, if that makes sense. Everything about this book was absolutely top tier. Hearing it from Whit or HOID's voice was absolutely like laugh out loud funny. I'm so happy because when I was reading Stormlight Archive, you get like these very short stories from him, and I'm like, I always wanted more, and this book does that. And in the postscript, Brandon Sanderson talks about how he's always wanted to write a book about Whit's backstory. However, he mentioned that he wants it to be more like raw, less whimsical, and so this book was kind of like an experiment with voice. So when it's a very whimsically written, very funny story, and it was really just like a writing exercise for him, which is so cool. In typical Brandon Sanderson fashion, this book had a plot twist on top of a plot twist on top of a plot twist, and I was like, what? Like, this is like, whoa, so good. I had so much fun reading this book and following all these characters, falling in love with these characters, and they're also like unique and quirky and different, and there's some really great, like this is something Brandon Sanderson does really well, is representation. There is a deaf character in this book, even like a person who has trouble like seeing in this book. I really enjoy when he incorporates this kind of stuff because it's so realistic and it's part of like people's lives and people's experiences, and he does it in such a tasteful way. I really respect it. There's also something so cool about this book, and that is in each of the chapters, and I didn't notice it until about halfway through the book, but every single chapter, it's a slow progression of an image being made. In one of the cases, it's like spores, and so it starts off like tiny, and then eventually like the spores are really big, or there's one where it just starts off as like a little vine growing, and it's like super cool. And then also like when you look at the first part here, you see these are two very important teacups to the story. And when you go to the end of the book, this is super relevant as well. And it's so subtle and it's so well thought out, and I had a hoot with this book, to be honest. I loved it. I definitely think if you haven't read any other books in the Cosmere, this might not be the first one that you should read, just because I feel like it's really confusing if you don't know Whit's character, and it might be hard to understand like what's going on, why it's written this way, and it might throw some readers off because it is very different from typical Brandon Sanderson writing. But if you have read his books before and you know the character, definitely read this. It is so much fun. It's whimsical, it's magical, it's hilarious, it's pirates, like, yeah. And of course, the world building and the entire world of this book was so good, so good. So I will be awarding Tress of the Emerald Sea a total of 4.5 stars. I loved this book. It was so much fun. Whenever I wasn't reading it, I thought about how excited I was to read it. Now, I didn't give it 5 stars because it wasn't my absolute favorite book in the entire world. Like, for a book for me to be 5 stars, it has to make my heart like wiggly. It has to make me screaming and kicking my feet, like that whole entire like slew of emotions, or the exact opposite of it, screaming, crying, you know, all of that, wanted to throw the book across the room. So this book is definitely good, and I had a really fun time with it. So the next book that I'll be reading is Flawless by Elsie Silver. And so this was recommended to me by my subscriber Poppy. Shout out, you're awesome. And so yeah, I'm really excited to read this book. I flipped through a couple of these pages, and let's just say I have very high expectations for this to be a very spicy book. So if you're interested in watching me read Flawless or any other Brandon Sanderson books or Emily Henry, Ali Hazelwood, so many other amazing authors, definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!